beautiful people, how are we today? Welcome back to PCM. If we haven't met before, I am Sam from Plant Collector Melbourne, and today's video we get to go into our beautiful tank that is here in PCM in the store, and it is by the one and only Ted from Atelier Eternium. So welcome, Ted.
Hi everyone.
So my Ted, let us get this started. Let us show everyone the beautiful tank that you have created for PCM. Let's go. Alrighty, where do we even start, my Ted? So, tell me, how long have we actually had this tank?
This tank is about, I would say, almost 2 years. So
Yeah.
almost 24 months.
Yeah, yeah.
From the very start to now, it's about 24 months.
Yeah, and I remember when we were back in the day when we were in Brunswick and you were trying to like scape it and trying to make it into the beautiful thing that it is. Can you tell me more about like the process in which that you go through to make a tank like this?
I remember this one very fondly because I was having a mental block
Yep.
trying to get this tank done. It's hard to describe exactly how it is done. I kind of just go with the flow, and also depends on what kind of material I get at the time, what I have in my hands. But generally speaking, I have a certain vision in my head, and I kind of just put it onto the canvas, so to speak. You know, this is my canvas in a way. Yeah.
One of the most beautiful things about it is that I find it's like living art. Is that this tank has transformed over the, I guess, it hasn't been here for 2 years exactly. It's been in the store for
Been in the store for about 10 months.
About 10 months.
Yeah.
And I remember from when it first came here to now that it's looking so different. Maybe we can talk to them about the maintenance of what that involves. So
Yeah, sure.
So this is more on Sam's job and Sam's role. So here we have the creator, and then he landed it here, and what I have to do. It is so simple, and Ted has made it so simple for me. And so all that I do is I put water in these tanks. It is all automated with timers and whatnot in there. And the misters will go off. What do we have it? Duration?
I think we have it on 4.5 hours at the moment.
Yep.
Every 4.5 hours for 12 seconds?
12 seconds?
I
yeah.
think.
Yep.
But it's about there. It's that ballpark, you know.
And we've definitely tweaked that a lot in the time that
we
it has
did.
been here.
Ooh.
Yes. And then, so the misters will go off, and the excess will go in there. So all I do is I empty that water and I actually use it for the plants. So it's a very circular system in that there's not much actually waste. Yeah, exactly. And the best thing about it is that Ted actually put springtails in here. So they go into the water and they actually benefit all of the plants when we water at PCM as well. Do you want to go into why you put the springtails in here?
Just to keep it bioactive, you know. In nature, you don't just have plants. You have a very diverse ecosystem that involves little critters, you know, from grass to moss to your bigger plants and stuff. So, you know, we're just trying to imitate what nature does.
Can you tell us the difference between a vivarium and a terrarium?
Yeah, sure. So Vivarium is the umbrella term for things such as terrarium, aquarium, paludarium, and a few other aquariums out there somewhere. So basically, Vivarium describes anything that is in an enclosure with livestock in it for display. So that includes plants as well as animals, fish, frog, insects, sometimes snakes, lizards, you know, that sort of stuff. So this one is a terrarium as well as a Vivarium. So you're right by calling it a Vivarium, but you'd be also right if you call it a terrarium, because we have terrestrial plants in here. But let's say if this one is half water, half terrestrial plants, so half aquatic plants, half terrestrial plants, then that would be a paludarium.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. And what kind of moss is this guy?
I mostly use what we call a miniature Taiwan. It is a semi-aquatic moss from Southeast Asia. I find that this particular moss does really well. It grows in a very nice pattern in an enclosed tank.
Yeah.
There are many other moths, especially the terrestrial moths, that just don't survive the type of environment that we created in this one.
Yeah, in terms of like water requirements?
Yeah, because terrestrial moths, most of them requires a dormant period every year. So when you water them during the dormancy, they actually die off.
Yeah.
Whereas particularly this type of semi-aquatic moths, they don't have dormancy period at all. So you can, they're growing throughout the year.
Yes, yes. And I remember that we were having a conversation as well once where you said it's because it grows horizontally.
Yeah. So some moths, I find, in a tank like this, they tend to grow elongated and vertically rather than grow along, the driftwood or the ground. Even though in nature they do that, but for some reason in the tank, for whatever reason, they don't. And that doesn't look nice. It just doesn't look natural. So, yeah.
We should tell them the funny story or our biggest challenge with this tank. Do you want to say it or do you want me to say it?
No, you say it.
Okay,
you say it.
So for the longest amount of time, I remember Ted and I, so right now, I know that you've expressed that you're really happy with where it's kind of turned out and how it's looking now, but we definitely had a journey where there was some hurdles and challenges. And during that time, we couldn't figure out what was going on. We were like, is it the misters? Is it...
Yeah, everything was kind of yellowing out.
Yeah. Yes. And we're like, is it too much water? Is it the frequency? Is it the duration? Is it the lights? And I remember we had coffee across the road. And then I was like, Ted, the only thing I can think of is feeding it. Like everything else makes sense to me. Everything should be fine. And then I was like, Ted, how often are we feeding it? Or are you feeding it?
No, you were feeding it.
So we both thought that each other was feeding the tank. So for the longest amount of time, I reckon for months, this tank was
3 months at least.
Was it at least?
Yeah, well, 3 months.
It was starving. Everything was yellowing. We were like, why is it just not thriving? And it was because it wasn't getting fed. So what are we doing now to feed it, my Ted?
So right now we are adding plant food directly into the water drums, whereas we used to manually feed them with a little sprayer. So we're adding at the moment 5 ml of GT into each of the water drums, and that keeps the system flushed, and that keeps everything fed pretty much all the time.
Yes.
And yeah, I remember it was within a week, 7 days, things literally turned around and started to become more and more green.
It was so fast.
It was so fast.
That's what happens when you start a plant. Oh my goodness. But even then, I thought that was a really cool moment for us because it was the aha moment. And then it was like, oh, this obstacle, this challenge, but we actually learned something really handy because you were saying that all the tanks that you've previously had, you've been spraying rather than having it put into the tanks.
Yeah, so now I do that with all my tanks.
And it's so much easier, right?
It is so much easier.
So the one tip or trick that we managed to get through the challenges.
Took us a while to figure it out too.
It did. It absolutely did. All right, my Ted, do you want to go through maybe what plants are in here, some of your favorite as well?
My favorites are the arrows in here for sure.
Of course.
The Warrock is my all-time favorite, one of my all-time favorites. Obviously, the Midnight Velvet is very nice.
It's so dark.
Yeah. So I guess the arrows are, the main characters in this particular tank. We have supporting characters such as pitcher plants.
Everyone loves that one.
Yeah, it grows so well in here, right? Yeah, we've got some air plants. I would call them air plants.
Little orchids as well.
Little orchids, yeah, that's right. Anubias, Bius phalandra.
Yeah.
These are just detailed plants.
Yeah.
And lots of moss. Moss is also my favorite.
Yes, I remember you saying. And so when you're scaping it, like for people that want to create something like this, what advice could you give to them?
Don't be afraid to fail. because I failed at least, I've destroyed at least 20 plus tanks.
Wow.
Over the years. You will always find something that you can improve upon, whether it is actual scaping or the use of plants or selection of plants, lighting. There's always something that I think you can improve upon.
Yeah.
Even nowadays, I reckon I can still do better. As a matter of fact, the tanks after that, I think are much better than this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you're invited to come and have a look.
Yes, yep. So for those of you that don't know, this video is actually an introduction to our brilliant Ted, but we will be doing another episode where we get to go to his workshop and where he has all of his other tanks. So stay tuned for that. What type of wood is this?
This is what they call spider wood. This is from Southeast Asia as well. It's a root, actually. I would say it's a root. It's actually not a branch. This is part of the roots.
Oh.
Part of the root. Yeah, the root system of a tree. A certain type of tree, which I don't know what it is. But yeah, the common name is commonly known as spiderwood.
Right.
Because it's all twisty and leggy and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
I love it because of the color and the contrast. I think that's why you probably use
that's
it,
right.
And even like the
bark?
The bark at the back as well. Do you know what that one is?
I'm not too sure. I actually don't know. And this is one of the only few tanks I use the bark has the background. It was more of an experiment for me. I just wanted to see how I can use a more natural color for the background. But now, as you can see, it's all covered by moss. Except for the little bit on top.
And I love that little bit. I remember we would be talking about it and being like, should we have all the moss go up? And I was like, no, I like it.
Yeah.
So we've definitely kept it. Actually, I wanted to show them the funny story of the sensitive plant.
Yeah.
That's
the mother plant?
Oh, there it is. So there is the mother plant. And somehow, Ted, what was your hypothesis?
I think it's
of
the
how
water.
This happened. It's the water, right. And so it has carried the little seeds or pollen, and you can see one all the way up here, and it gets even better. All the way up here, it's traveled. And we think that it is because of the misting system.
Yep.
Yep.
It creates an upward airflow that carried the tiny little seeds into the moss on the background. I think that's how it got there.
That's right. Yeah. I have no other explanation.
Unless it grow legs.
It truly. I actually think it adds. I think it's really cool that they're there.
It is. It's very natural. Like in nature, that's what you see.
Yes.
Yeah.
So true. So my Ted, to give people a bit of context, how many years have you been into creating your craft?
Altogether, I would say about 6 to 7 years, somewhere between. Yeah. Somewhere around there. Started off with small terrariums, obviously, tiny ones, and then just grew bigger and bigger and bigger.
And like
and
this?
Bigger. That's small right now.
Yes.
That used to be a big size for me, but nowadays, even this is
still small.
Medium sized, I guess.
Oh, medium? Okay. I get questions a lot of the time in regards to lights and plants. So Ted, can you give a little bit of context as to what lighting we should be looking for in, let's say, a terrarium or a vivarium?
I think the type of light you're going to need is going to be determined by the plants you want to use in your terrarium. Obviously, plants that requires full sun, for example, then you need a very bright light. My recommendation is always to go with full spectrum LEDs. That's my recommendation.
And why is that?
It's long lasting. It doesn't create too much heat, even though it does heat up a little bit, but it's not as much as traditional lights. And also, it's power saving, energy saving.
Yeah.
So those are the pros. And if you spend a little bit more money on some of those brands, you might even be able to get adjustable lights. So intensity can be adjusted. So you can use that to adjust the level of light you want for your tank.
And I know that R1 can.
Yeah. This one is adjustable.
Yes.
Very much so, this one. This one is one of the best ones I've used.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And then also, let's talk about this humidifier real quick.
I forgot about it already.
I know, me too. It's actually saved this tank once in our lifetime.
You know it.
I know it. Another story time is that someone, I don't know who, must have knocked the timer or something, and I guess the misters weren't working. And 2-3 days later, I call up Ted and I was like, Ted, the tank isn't looking too hot. What's going on? And it was because the misters had stopped. But luckily for this amazing humidifier that kicked in as soon as it started to drop below 45% humidity. So it gave us a little bit of time in those 3 days to figure out what was going on. So yes, we had this humidifier as kind of like a fall-safe.
Fall-safe, plan B kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's only been used once, but it was very important.
It was very important. It saved our tank.
Yeah, it did. It gave us a long enough buffer for us to save everything, salvage everything.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, my friends, this portion of the video, I'm going to take you on the tour of showing you what is in and enclosed in this beautiful vivarium. So come a little bit closer. So let's start off with mostly the ground cover. So here we have, I believe that one's called a Selaginella.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. We've got this amazing pitcher plant here that I think attracts almost everyone that comes to see it at PCM. And it first started with only one
single plant.
Yeah.
Yeah, with about 3 or 4 pitchers.
And now?
I think I saw 3 last time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 3. And it's been so happy, which is such a surprise because of the fertilizing. For some reason, it's still really happy and hasn't been burnt or anything like that. So I think it's been in a really good spot, avoiding the misters, but getting enough water, which is great. And this one, I believe, is a semi-aquatic plant. Is that right, Ted?
Yes, it is. That is a very small form of Anubias. It's very popular amongst aquascaping, people who are interested in aquascaping. That's a very popular ground cover plant. And if you look to your left, the darker colored one.
Just here?
So that's Bucephalandra, also another semi-aquatic plant. Yeah.
And this one is definitely one of my favorites, and I believe it is called the Phantom.
Yes, it is called the Phantom.
And what genus is that one?
Anubias.
Anubias, yes. And we've got, as we showed before, the sensitive plant there. Here's Mama. These beautiful little ficus goes around the whole vivarium. So it's going up here. There's even some in a crevice over here. And even this little section in here, it almost looks like a cave. And I just love how those little ficus climb up. It makes it look like a little world. And if we're moving a little bit up, we've got a Philodendron melanochrysum, which we have chopped up so much. This is actually more like a propagation tank than anything else, isn't it, Ted?
Yes.
We've chopped that one up a lot. We've got this beautiful midnight velvet cross crystallinum, which has come out super dark. It was struggling for so long, and now it's just looking amazing. It's got a new leaf there. Any bigger, we'll probably have to chop it up and propagate it, but that is definitely one of the pros that we have for this tank, is that things are starting to grow super fast and that we can propagate. We've also got one of my absolute favorite anthuriums here, which is Anthurium friedrichsthaliae. Some really cool features, or some of my favorite things to point out in here, is the fact that they've got mushrooms as well. So there's one over here, and there is actually another one hidden somewhere. Where are you? Where is it? Oh, here. And it's covered in moss just next to the friedrichsthaliae, which is cute. We've got some beautiful orchids. This guy is definitely one of my favorites in the tank as well, which is our Anthurium warocquianum, or also known as the Queen Anthurium. We got super excited because finally it is starting to get another beautiful leaf, which is going to be huge. More orchids. We have a skeleton key, an epipremnum, Is that right?
Yes.
And we've got some cool Hoya, so we've got Hindu ropes in here. What are these, Ted?
Air plants.
Beautiful color.
Yeah, just give it a bit of a pink in the tank.
Yeah. So one of our favorites, which has actually, I would say, struggled for quite some time, is this Anthurium polyschistum, which is supposed to look like little fingers. So if you ever look that up on Google or Instagram, it looks significantly different. And this, I don't know what's happened, if it's mutated or if it's because it's gone backwards and looking more juvenile, but it looks more like a star. And Ted and I have come to the conclusion that we actually like it in this form way better than the fingers. So we're actually pretty rapt that it's come out like this, and we hope it kind of stays that way for a little bit longer. I'll point out again the little sensitive plants that have gone rogue. Of course, this amazing varicosum, we'll probably have to chop that up real soon.
We've
anyway.
cut it a couple times already.
We actually have. It's grown so fast. But I guess one of my favorite things is when people come into the store and they can see like this as a visual, but then my actual favorite part is when you kind of come on this level and start to see it on this like almost miniature world where you can see Ted has made this little path, got different little crevices and caves. You can see like heaps of the root growth behind everything. And yeah, that will conclude our little tour of the vivarium. So that will conclude our video and our little tour of the vivarium. Thank you so much to our Ted for coming in today. This is actually our second time filming because the first time it didn't work out. So thank you again for coming in. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And like we said before, this is going to be our first video as an intro to Ted and his beautiful art pieces. They are truly living art, and having one in the store is so beautiful to watch as it transforms throughout, I guess, the 10 months that it's been here. So I'm truly in love with it. It's my favorite thing that is in the store, and I'm so thankful. So if you have any questions before we do our next video, if you have any questions for Ted, myself, please remember to leave it down below in the comments so that we can ask him in our next video. Ted is actually an individual that comes in for some of our workshops. So if you ever are thinking that you want to make a terrarium or even just pick his mind, feel free to come to those. We make these. And isn't it just stunning? And so, yes, come down and have a good time in the store with me. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you in our next video. Bye!